Hello and welcome to Green Shift Business Lines video series on clean tech, climate change, renewable energy. I am your host M Ramesh. Today as we speak, some 190 countries of the world have gathered at Baku, the capital city of Azerbaijan, for this year's round of climate negotiations, which as you know are called COP for Conference of Parties. Parties means parties that are signatories to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. I know, quite a mouthful. It's UNFCCC. So this is the 29th such conference. So this is called COP29. Climate negotiators of the world have gathered at Baku for COP29. Last year, for example, at COP28, which was held in Dubai, the leading theme was global stocktake. The previous COP27, which was held in Egypt, the leading theme was implementation. It was called Implementation COP. Like that, each COP has its own leading theme. It's not official, but it is generally known by a certain label. This COP, that is COP29's leading theme is finance. For that reason, it is labeled as Finance COP. Why? Obviously because finance is going to be the key point of discussion at COP29. Now, in 2009, at the COP that was held in Copenhagen, the developed countries decided that they would mobilize $100 billion per year by 2020 to fund climate action projects in the developing countries. So this $100 billion became a sort of a target for finance mobilization. And by the way, it's important to note that this is not a grant as the developing countries would hope, but this is mobilization of finance. Some of it could be concessional finance, the rest could be through regular financial instruments. The developed countries, through this body called Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, claim that this target was met by 2022, 2 years after the deadline, but nevertheless it was met. That's their claim. But many developing countries don't agree with that because, you get into nitty-gritty such as definition of what climate finance is and so on. But leave that aside. This time at COP29, all the countries want to set a new goal, new target for finance, which is called New Collective Quantified Goal, or NCQG. Now, this is a term that you will come across frequently over the next couple of weeks. Now, what is this new collective quantified goal? This is a target, a number for finance that should be mobilized towards funding development climate action projects in the developing countries. So this new collective quantified goal will replace the earlier $100 billion per year target. So this new collective quantified goal will be the big thing of this COP29. But there are a few other points also, mostly related to finance. For example, there is loss and damage. Now, in the Paris Agreement of 2015, it was agreed that there will be a fund created for loss and damage. Now, what is loss and damage? Loss and damage fund is a fund that would be created to help countries, particularly low income countries, to get back on their feet after they have hit by a climate event such as like a hurricane. Now, the creation of this fund was envisaged in the Paris Agreement of 2015, but it was not until 2 years ago that they actually brought the fund back in the climate agenda. Until then, it was put in the back burner. Last year at COP28, they actually set up this fund and asked the World Bank to host it. And now, this year, there will be talks around it to finance it. Last year, of course, after the fund was set up, many countries brought in some money, made pledges totaling about $700 million. This is far lesser than what is required. One estimate by the World Resources Institute, WRI, is that loss and damage fund would require at least something like $580 billion. Against this, the pledges made last year totaled about 700 million. So this time around, the idea is to coax countries to put more and more money into this loss and damage fund, which by the way has been renamed as Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage. So this is the second point that will be under discussion. The first point is new collective quantified goal. The second is loss and damage. Well, there are a few other points, few other issues that will be discussed in COP29. One will be the carbon markets. The discussions will be around how to maintain a registry. The discussions will be mainly around what is called the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism, which involves maintaining of registry, authorization of carbon credits, who will sell, who will buy, the sequencing of credits and so on. This is a lot of rule making, building a framework for proper trading of carbon credits. So this is one point that will be discussed. Yet another point that will be discussed is importantly the NDCs, nationally determined contributions, which are promises that countries make, the pledges that the countries make to the international fora about what they will do for climate action. All countries have done that. And it was agreed in the Paris conference that after 5 years, after every 5 years, countries will come and give enhanced NDCs, that is, they will promise to do even more for climate action. So the deadline for the next round of enhanced NDCs is February 2025, although there is time, another few months for countries to come up with their enhanced nationally determined contributions. NDCs issue will be pretty much discussed in this conference. And finally, there is something called the Biennial Transparency Report or BTR. This again is for each country to come and disclose, to come and report to the international fora about the progress that they have made in terms of climate action. And this will be in terms of, let's say, how much carbon reduction they have achieved, to what extent they have met their own NDC promises, and so on and so forth. There is a particular format in which this reporting will have to be made, and this report will have to be made once in 2 years. The deadline for the first report is December 31st, 2024. So there is again still some time for countries to come up and do this disclosure. But this again will be discussed at COP29. And then there are other issues like adaptation, the work plan for adaptation for 2025-2027. Adaptation is refers to the efforts that countries make to cope up with the deleterious effects of climate, of global warming that have already become unavoidable. So what to do about adaptation? Adaptation will be another leading theme, and there is gender equality, how to protect indigenous people. So number of other things will be issued. But basically, we should remember that 4 or 5 broad issues will be discussed this time, which is new collective quantified goal, loss and damage, carbon markets, enhanced NDCs, and biennial transparency reports. We will know the success of these negotiations on November 22nd when this COP is supposed to end, but typically these meetings tend to extend a day or more beyond the deadline. So in any case, in a couple of weeks, we will know to what extent the negotiators have succeeded in their efforts. Thank you.